Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm really excited about today's video. We're going to be talking about Tears of the Kingdom. I've now beaten the game, and although I had a ton of fun playing the game, I really realized that I loved the story in this one. I don't expect a lot from a Zelda game in terms of story. It's usually a simple kind of hero's tale. We don't get too much lore, but this game absolutely took it to another level. So I'm really happy to dive into all of that with you guys today. So as I was saying, Nintendo really stepped it up this time. We've never needed a lot from a Zelda game to enjoy. A very simple hero's tale, but this game decided to just go harder than ever, spanning over multiple eras and digging into a ton of the history of Hyrule. This is going to be the game that we all wanted. It's something that gives us way more of that juicy lore. But for those Zelda timeline purists out there, I gotta say, it'll likely be a little bit frustrating for you, and you might find it somewhat incongruent with what you know from other games. Alright, so I really love the structure of the story in this game because it's split up into basically two completely different stories. One is Link's, which is unfolding before us as we play the game, as it always does in Zelda games. But we also have Zelda's, which is unfolding through different cutscenes, different memories that we're collecting as we go. The cool thing is, by the time we get to the end, we'll have Zelda's entire perspective of what led up to this whole situation. And we'll have Link's entire perspective of his entire journey. So really we get to span way more years than just the current gameplay, which is a lot of fun, gives us a lot of extra lore to explore, and is overall just exciting. Although it's a lot of fun to see these memories, at the same time of playing the main game, it can be a little bit confusing. You're bouncing here, there, and everywhere, it feels like sometimes. The story's really cool though, so what I want to do is make your life a little bit easier by kind of bringing it all together for you here in this video. So we're really going to be going deep into some of these memories that are scattered all around Hyrule, as well as some of the content that are going to be tied more to quests, but this will conclude with the ending of the game. So if you haven't played, I definitely recommend that you find out the ending of the game by playing it rather than hearing it here in the video. So I want to give you a second to do that. Tears of the Kingdom takes place after the events of Breath of the Wild, where we saw Link successfully defeat Calamity Ganon. Now it's not clear how long after that battle we're picking up from here, but it does seem that at least a few years have passed. In any case, the story begins with Link and Zelda exploring the depths of Hyrule. They discover a few things down there. One important one I want to bring up is a red substance called gloom that has been infecting Hyrule in recent times. The bigger discovery, though, is a set of murals depicting an event called the Imprisoning War. Now, that conflict saw the ancient people of Hyrule, which are the Lost Zonai race, fighting the Demon King Ganondorf and sealing him away. While The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past also had an imprisoning war with a similar premise, the event in Tears of the Kingdom appears to be its own thing entirely. Shortly after that, Link and Zelda actually find the imprisoned corpse of Ganondorf, which has been sealed with a tear-like stone. Tears of the Kingdom? Tear-like stone? Think on that. But it doesn't last very long. The disturbance from Link and Zelda walking into the room causes the stone to fall, and soon after, we see Ganondorf spring to life, which causes Link to draw the Master Sword, a powerful enough weapon to defeat him. Unfortunately, Ganondorf uses the gloom to destroy both the sword and Link's arm. Most notable about the scene is that Ganondorf somehow knows who Link and Zelda are, mocking someone named Rauru from putting their faith in Link. Ganondorf raises Hyrule's castle into the sky. Zelda falls into the blackness below before disappearing with a yellow flash, while a mysterious blue arm brings Link to safety on the Sky Islands above. We learn from the early game that Link was saved by the spirit of Rauru, an ancient Zonai creature who was the first king of Hyrule. It turns out Ganondorf destroyed Link's arm in the encounter, so Rauru replaced it with the mechanical one that he's able to communicate through. Now, after completing a few shrines, Rauru leads Link to the Temple of Time. I remember the Temple of Time so well from the old Nintendo 64 days, where he places his destroyed Master Sword on a pedestal. It disappears, but somehow reappears in front of Zelda in the same location. Before I dive too deep into Zelda's story, let's get the easy part of the way. Link must defeat Ganondorf by regaining his power and investigating some of the mysteries in Hyrule. He goes to different cities and helps the various races deal with issues caused by the gloom. The Zora's water is poisoned, for instance. That's one example. As he explores, he meets the ancestors of the people that imprisoned Ganondorf originally: Sidon, Tulin, Riju, and Yunobo. Each character inherits their ancestors' sage powers and Tear Stone during the main story, vowing to help Link in the final battle. After gaining his new allies from Rito Village, Zora Domain, Goron City, and Gerudo Town, Link eventually learns that there was a secret fifth sage as well. A long quest line eventually takes him to an underground forge where he meets the spirit of a Zonai named Minoru, the elder sister of Rauru and the spirit sage. Link creates a robot out of Zonai devices which Minoru is able to inhabit, allowing her to fight alongside the other sages in battle against Ganondorf. With all the pieces in place, Link has assembled a small army capable of storming Ganondorf's Sky Castle. There's just one problem. Where is Zelda? So as Link goes along on his journey, he gathers all of Zelda's memories, and I'm going to put them together for you here. I'll tell you that story. And it's going to get a little bit strange because it starts off with a doppelganger version of Zelda running around Link's timeline causing mayhem. She does not appear to be the real princess, as these actions are not congruent with her personality at all. It turns out that when Zelda was separated from Link, she traveled back in time to the timeline of King Rauru. She reemerges in ancient Hyrule and meets Rauru and his wife, Sonia, who take her in. That's how she gets the destroyed Master Sword, which has somehow traveled back in time too and arrived in Zelda's hand. Now, Zelda is determined to get back to her time, but the king and queen don't know how she can. They don't know anything about time travel. They suggest that she speak to Minoru, who mentions that she could potentially return through a process called dragonification. Dragonification, potentially. That occurs when someone swallows a tear stone, turning them into an eternal dragon. Now, Zelda could theoretically do that and return to her time simply by living long enough, but the process is strictly forbidden as it's irreversible. In the meantime, Sonia trains Zelda to harness the time powers that she possesses. The princess also tells Sonia about Link, the hero from her own time, who has the power to fight darkness. That winds up being a crucial detail. It turns out that all of this is occurring in the middle of the imprisoning war that we spoke about earlier. Ganondorf launches an attack on Hyrule and is thwarted by Rauru. In defeat, the Demon King notices Rauru's Tear Stone. Ganondorf pledges his allegiance to Rauru in Hyrule Court, but that's simply a ruse to get closer to his power. The Demon King tries to trick Sonia by sending a gloom creature disguised as Zelda to meet with her. She sees through the ruse, but Ganondorf stabs her in the back, kills her, and steals her stone. That truly transforms him into the real Demon King, forcing Rauru to retreat with Zelda as Ganondorf calls an army of monsters to Hyrule. From here, we get a little bit more backstory on the original sages. Rauru calls the five of them together as well as Zelda, and gives each their own Tear Stone. They pledge their allegiance to Rauru and become the sages sworn to defeat Ganondorf. Now, Zelda tells Rauru that Ganondorf is alive in her time, so she knows that whatever they do won't actually defeat him. Their only hope is to stall him and leave the rest to Link in the future. And that's exactly what happens, as the sages seal Ganondorf, and Rauru, unfortunately, sacrifices his life in the process. All of this sets the stage for an epic final act where time really gets messed up. With Ganondorf imprisoned, Zelda still needs to find a way back to her time with the restored Master Sword. It turns out that the weapon can be repaired, but it'll take a long time as the blade needs to be bathed in sacred light for a while. She finds a way to kill two birds with one stone, and I mean that quite literally. Zelda puts Mineru's spirit into her Pura Pad and entrusts it with an ancient Zonai who will give it to Link in the future. Then, she swallows her secret stone and grabs the destroyed Master Sword right before she transforms into an eternal dragon. Now, with the sword stabbed into her head, her light power is able to restore the blade over the course of centuries, as Zelda lives long enough to return to Link's timeline. Link will eventually discover all of this and pull the fixed sword out of Zelda's head. With 5 sages and a fixed Master Sword, Link heads to Hyrule Castle to defeat Ganondorf. It turns out that he's not actually in the Sky Fortress, though. He's in the depths, below the surface. Link and the sages dive down and launch an attack on Ganondorf's army. If you hadn't gotten all the sages, Link also has to fight the bosses at the end of their temple too. Now, after clearing out the army, Link and the sages battle Ganondorf. On the brink of defeat, the Demon King pulls one last move. He swallows his own stone and becomes a dragon himself. Luckily, Link has a dragon of his own to help him. Dragon Zelda swoops in and assists Link as he destroys Ganondorf for good. Link then uses Rauru and Sonia's power stored in his arm to restore Zelda back to her human form. The two gather back at the Temple of Time with the new sages, and Mineru formally entrusts the Kingdom of Hyrule to both of them. Now that is where our happy ending leaves off. There isn't much of a sequel set up other than Zelda and Link swearing to protect Hyrule again with new sages at their side. It isn't clear if the next Zelda game will continue the story or jump into a new part of the timeline, but Tears of the Kingdom does tie off the story quite neatly. Perhaps we'll get more lore in the next Zelda hack and slash game, like Hyrule Warriors: Age of Calamity. Thank you everyone for watching. I have really enjoyed making videos, and you guys are the motivation for me to do that going forward. I appreciate all the support. So if you liked the video, please, could you just smash that like button for me? If you have any feedback for me on how to improve, either in the game or right here on YouTube, I would love to hear it in the comment section. Hopefully, I've earned your subscription today so that I can see you again in the next video. Bye for now.